Lots to talk about on the podcast today, including Ryan Williams getting engaged. I'm told he did not drop the ring.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama, AHSA Radio Network's Luke Robinson. That's me. Alabama internet legend Jimmy Stein. That's him. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. We'll talk about Mazda in just a little bit. I want to thank you every day for joining every day because you help make Locked On the number one sports podcast network there is. And we also have the best Discord going when it comes to Everydayer Club, which I will tell you about in a bit. And I was just joking about Ryan Williams. Kind of funny.
Yeah, this is a Ryan Williams podcast, and we're starting the whole cold open with a Ryan Williams shot across the bow.
Well, that's how close we are to Ryan, that we can joke about him.
It is a Ryan Williams podcast. Can you believe we started the Ryan Williams podcast when he was basically in the 9th or 10th grade, and now the dude is engaged to be married? How old does that make us?
Very. All of it. I'll say this. She is a fetching young lass. She is a very pretty woman. And he is also a wonderful man, as Homer Simpson said to Marge one time. She goes, "I'm a lucky woman." He said, "I'm a wonderful man." hope that worked out. So lots has gone on here in the last couple of days. Alabama got a JUCO commitment, which we're going to talk about first, but also the basketball team won last night. There's also a surprise player on the roster, which is kind of weird. We'll talk about, and we'll talk about the remaining schedule in the SEC and see what Alabama's path to be in that first four, that coveted first four double bye group. So, but let's start with our JUCO wide receiver, who sort of came out of nowhere, right, Jimmy? I mean, and he looks like a dude. I mean, he just does. I know he's at Kennesaw State, and I was thinking, by the way, I'm in Kennesaw. Isn't that weird?
That is weird.
Probably should go visit him.
That shows to the extent to which you are recruiting Gump. We flip a kid from Kennesaw, and Luke's like, "I'm going to Kennesaw to rub it in."
See you later, family. So anyway, I think this guy, he looks pretty doggone good. Now, again, let's not try and oversell it and say they missed this one or you're diamond in the rough, all that stuff, but he kind of looks good.
Yeah, there's two things can be true. Number one, this is a depth pickup. Of course it is. We flipped a kid from Kennesaw basically a month after signing day. Obviously signing day was actually more than 2 weeks ago. And you flip him from Kennesaw, and you need to add to the wide receiver room. He makes wide receiver number 11, which might sound like a lot to you guys, but we actually often play with 4 on the field at one time. So 11's not actually a lot. It's getting to be a very adequate number. So this is a depth add. Okay, so because you had to beat Kennesaw, he didn't have any SEC offers. As a matter of fact, he didn't have any Power 4 offers. He only had Group of 5 offers and chose Kennesaw over some other Group of 5 schools before flipping to Alabama.
Why? Do you know that? I mean, that is weird.
No, I don't know why. Because you're like, okay, well, what's wrong? It's not productivity. As a junior college sophomore, he literally led the nation in receiving yards and touchdowns. So it's not productivity. It must be size and speed. Well, he's at least 6 foot tall. He is thin, but so is Ryan. So is Devontae Smith. He's not thinner than those guys. He's just sort of built in the same way Devontae and Ryan are built. That wouldn't keep him out of the Power 4. Well, it must be speed. Well, he ran a 10,800 meters in high school. As a matter of fact, he won the Mississippi triple jump as a junior, came in second as a senior in 5A track in Mississippi. I don't know what the knock is. I watched the tape, and I have no idea what the knock is as to why he wasn't. There must be something. There must be something, because kids don't really slip through the cracks. It used to be kids would slip through the cracks. That would literally happen. These days in the modern age, that almost never happens, but I can't really explain it. So the way I'm looking at it, guys, is this is a depth add, But unlike most of the depth ads, here's a guy who's got a real chance. I mean, this guy is going to have an opportunity to get into that first rotation at Alabama. I look at him and I see a guy that I think could contend to get into the first group. See, we got two groups of wide receiver right now, right? The first group, Ryan, Lottie, Noah Rogers, Derek Meadows, Cedarian Morgan, and Rico Scott. That's the first group. The second group, MJ Churgwin, MJ Mathis, Aubrey Walker, Amari Saab. I think this guy's more like the first group than the second group from the tape and on the story, but it's hard to explain that with the context of this is a late flip from Kennesaw. So it's a strange situation. Can't wait to see him because, like, are my eyes deceiving me, or is this not kind of a dude-looking kid? But that said, this only cost Alabama a scholarship. This wasn't. You obviously you don't raid the Kennesaw commitment list with a bag of money. We're just giving him an opportunity to play in the SEC.
It is funny how frightened I am of saying, hey, I'm happy with this guy, knowing somebody's going to come back and go, we stole him from Kennesaw State. Because I think we're so hyperbolic about all this that and when, let's say if LSU or Auburn were to do it, we'd be like, we got somebody from Kennesaw State. And, it's kind of fair because if you load your dudes up with guys from Kennesaw State, guess what you are? Kennesaw State.
Kennesaw State. Yeah.
But there's also
if you sign Kennesaw's commitment list, you're Kennesaw.
You're Kennesaw.
But if you sign their best player, you're still Alabama. Kennesaw's gonna have guys somehow, some way. They'll end up 2, 3, 4, 5 guys or more that prove to be SEC level football players. That's how it happens. But
okay, please,
the right guys. You can't just randomly pick one.
Yeah, please don't think I'm in any way comparing this current wide receiver commitment, or I guess he's at Alabama. Is he at Alabama now?
That's unclear. It's even unclear to me as I'm guessing this without knowing because that has not been reported or made clear. I'm guessing he's going to be a summer arrival type guy. I'm guessing that, but I don't know. Now, there used to be a rule that once you enter junior college, unless you are eligible out of high school, you have to graduate from junior college to be eligible to play SEC football. I imagine that rule still exists. We just signed so few JUCOs compared to the old days. I don't keep up with it anymore. But that used to be the rule. Unless you were eligible out of high school, you have to graduate from junior college to become an eligible SEC player. So I'm guessing without knowing this is a guy that will show up this summer.
Okay, I'm not in any way comparing Tyler Henderson, this young man, to this other guy I'm about to say. I'm just saying I want you to hear what I'm saying. That, okay, you don't answer this in your own head in the car by yourself if you're 42 years or older, okay? Because you know the answer. But let's say you're 41 or younger. Do you know where Randy Moss went to school? Jimmy and I know. And if you're 42 and up, you definitely know, and you may know it if you're younger. But he went to Marshall. Now, what you may not know, if you're in that young group, you may know where he went. You may not know why. He was going to Notre Dame. And Notre Dame had some kind of, there was some black marks and some grade issues and some other things. I don't even know the whole story anymore. I used to.
There was some criminal thing, I believe, as well.
And then he goes to Florida State. And Florida State eventually couldn't touch him because he was too hot at that time too. It's hard to imagine now because today everybody'd say, forget all that. We don't care. What did he do? Did he kidnap the Pope? I don't care. Whatever. So Florida State couldn't keep him. And this was vintage Florida State time, by the way. This was big boy Florida State, not screwing around. They had other dudes that were doing bad stuff too, and they couldn't touch him. So he ended up at Marshall where he just dominated. And all I'm saying is sometimes, see, you may not know that story. Sometimes there may be a fantastic guy out there that is just an unbelievable player. And when you find out where he was, you're like, why on earth was that guy there? The only reason that guy was at Marshall is because Marshall was about the only team willing to go, we don't care what you did. Please come here and dominate people. And guess what happened? That's what Randy Moss did. I'm not saying that Tyler Henderson is going to dominate people and that he was at Kennesaw State for any trouble whatsoever. I'm just saying people take weird, circuitous paths to different places, and then it may work out for him. So maybe he took a weird path to Kennesaw State. Alabama caught on to something, and maybe this dude is pretty good.
It is not even an unusual story, by the way. Right. I mean, in terms of like the standard, this isn't unusual at all. He's a good prospect. He's a decent prospect. He's a good high school player, not good enough to get the attention of Power 4 schools. He went with his only option was junior college. And while at junior college, turned into a different guy. Luke's hometown, Terrell Owens. He wasn't the TO we came to know when he was at Benjamin Russell. That happened at UT Chattanooga.
How did you have a better example than me? And I'm from there.
I like both. Both Randy Moss and TO are wide receivers and good examples of it can just happen for kids later for any number of reasons. But maybe the kid is just a late bloomer. I just know the sophomore JUCO tape I watched looks like an SEC player. And I would say that if the kid had signed with Auburn. I mean,
now
he looks like an SEC. I don't understand the knock here. So
your point on TO is also very relevant here because, see, he wasn't at UTC for anything grade-wise or anything behavioral-wise. He was at UTC because he was a relative unknown. Somebody just happened to spot him while they were there checking somebody else out. And at the time, UTC was there. I mean, Terrell Owens is 1 year younger than me. And they were able to sort of keep it on the down low, I believe. Then he goes to UTC, and back then transferring just wasn't something you did very often. So he goes to UTC. He was a homebody. He wasn't out there like partying all the time. What Terrell Owens did all the time just to get over his homesickness was work out constantly, obviously. And that worked. All the antics you saw in the pros, that came later. I mean, that came later because I think anybody who gets that much fame later, it can affect them a certain way. And all that came later. But, man, what a good example by you. I hate you. Now we're going to talk a little Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. The skills, the experience, the location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed in this last few seconds, according to Indeed data worldwide. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is your job place to go. That's Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed, this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply because they apply to everything. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. I like that. Boy, I'm going to do that more often. A lot of people listening to this probably don't know this is a job for Superman. I mean, y'all missed out on a lot of good stuff. Also, we want you to join the Everydayer Club. Look, man, this thing is kicking chicken. I'm telling you, we're having a lot of fun with it. You got Michael, Asian Jimmy Southern over there. You got other dudes making these memes and GIFs, and it's lockedonbama.supercast.com. Lockedonbama.supercast.com. Go check it out. It's $5 a month, or was it $50 for the year? Yeah, $50. Right. $50 for a year. You could just give it a whirl, man. If you don't like it, go on. But you're gonna.
I got more than 30 minutes of stuff to say about Alabama every day, so sometimes I spew it out on the Discord page.
And that's what you should do. Let's do roster countdown now, Jimmy. A couple of interesting names here. We're going to go for two of them.
Roster rank. Yeah, we're ranking the roster, counting down to the start of spring practice. And as we record this, we're just 22 days away from the start of practice. Isn't that crazy? So number 23, which is yesterday, Saturday, is Nick Brooks, and number 22 is Josh Ford, 2 transfer portal guys that sort of have a similar situation. And notice they're ranked pretty high here. I would say they're on the cusp of starting, but they're playing positions where there's going to be enormous competition. They could both easily win starting jobs this spring, and I think that right now I would even not be surprised if that's the case. So that's why they're here at 23 or 22. Or maybe they don't win starting jobs, and when we re-rank the roster after spring practice, they're lower. But Nick Brooks is the huge kid, the transfer from Texas. He's Caden Proctor sized. He came out of Atlanta, a pretty big-time prospect. That's why he signed with Texas. Interestingly, Nick Brooks was going to be a left tackle at Texas. That's huge guy, Proctor size, left tackle, went all the way through spring practice at Texas as a left tackle, gets into the season, true freshman. They have multiple injuries. They ask him to move inside. Not only they ask him to move inside, he's got to start games. He actually started, I believe, 3 games, if not 4, all against SEC competition. Started against Oklahoma in the Red River game. Now, here's the bad news. He wasn't great. He struggled. Here's the common sense news. Of course he did. He's a true freshman, moving inside, playing against SEC competition. Of course it wasn't going to be great. I think he got a little frustrated with the situation and left, wants a new start. Well, at Alabama, the question is, will he play outside or inside? He did both at Texas. I'm going to guess inside for him. I'm guessing inside.
What do you think he wants to play?
I imagine he wants to play outside. And
that's where the money is.
That's where the money is. That's right. That's where the kids mostly want to play inside. However, most kids would rather start at guard than sit on the bench at tackle. So there's that. But I think ultimately he's an inside guy. He started at Texas as a true freshman. It shouldn't shock anyone he would start as a sophomore at Alabama. Shouldn't shock anyone. On the other hand, his play in the games last year showed, developmentally he's got a ways to go. But don't they all at this position? I'm excited to have him. The upside here is enormous. This was a top 150 prospect out of high school. And again, I'm excited to have him, and he'll be solidly in the mix with these 4 vacancies on the Alabama offensive line. Josh Ford, slightly different situation. I'm more excited about Josh Ford than most. I have him here as the 22nd best player on this team. I know some people say, boy, you have really overshot there. I don't think so. Alabama needed blocking help at tight end. Can't you tell from the hire of Richard Owens, from the hire of Adrian Clem, from chasing Hollywood Smothers in the transfer portal, they're serious about running the football. And if you want to know evidence about how serious they are running the football, the very first transfer portal guy they went and got is a 6'7", 265-pound tight end. And you're like, yeah, well, he's at Oklahoma State. This kid started most of his true freshman season, and it wasn't the Texas situation. This guy showed up starting games as a true freshman. He didn't catch a lot of balls, but you don't really expect the 6'7", 265-pound true freshman tight end to catch a lot of balls. He's out there getting the edge block. Went into his sophomore year, ready to become the full-time starter at tight end. Oklahoma State fired Gundy, so he asked for a redshirt year. He figured the whole year was sort of a lost deal for him. So he just took a red shirt last year. But this was a kid who started games as a true freshman in the Big 12. I think he's a serious contender to either start or be considered a 1 at Alabama and Alabama's attempts to improve the run game. Huge, experienced, still young enough to mold, probably never going to be a Josh Cuevas, but that's not why he was recruited. He was recruited to be the inline wide tight end. Y'all remember Michael Williams? Who was our tight end back in the 2011 type, when we could really run the football. I'm not comparing him to Michael Williams, who had a pretty long NFL career as an offensive lineman, I think. But I'm not comparing him to Mike Williams. I'm just saying he's the type. He's a type like Mike Williams. And I think there's a spot for him in an offense that really wants to get better running the ball. So that's why I have him here at 22. I think both of these kids, Luke, I'm as curious as anybody to find out when spring is over, are they bumped up even a little higher because they've won spots or appear to be winning spots? Or did they lose out because there's some really intense multiplayer competition at both tight end and on the offensive line to where they could fall some. So I'm as interested as anybody to see how spring goes for Nick Brooks and Josh Ford.
You know, when we signed Josh Ford, Jack Samarco was like, why you? I oughta. He's like, they've already got a tight end who doesn't catch anything.
From the Big 12. From the Big 12. When Samarco was at West Virginia, right? So sort of similar-ish. Josh a little bigger and had a lot more experience playing. But, yeah, similar-ish. I think you're right.
All right, we're going to talk a little basketball when we come back. But first, we're going to talk some Mazda. I told you I was going to do it right at the beginning. Did you think I was teasing? I'm not teasing. Here it comes. This is Mazda's moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. How about, I don't know, Aiden Holloway? He had 20 points last night. He reminds us every day what it takes to raise the bar. It's extra work off the court that made him score 20 points last night against South Kakalaki. He was dialing into every detail. He was giving it that extra fire, that grit, that I never quit. Look, over at Mazda, they put the same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you. Jimmy Stein doesn't believe, but I do. That's my new thing. FanDuel. Yeah, you love FanDuel. Don't even try and pretend. Ever wanted to experience an NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year because it's fun. Whether it's picking a team to win the championship or grab a conference title, it adds that extra layer of excitement to every game I watch down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick your cash, it can also send you to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your choice to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of NBA. That is a Jimmy Stein guarantee.
Before we talk about basketball, shout out to Mason, who I met before the game last night at the restaurant, and very nice. And a great couple, Caleb and Holly, who I met at the game. Couldn't have been nicer. And thanks for listening to the show every day, guys.
We appreciate it. You should be in the Everydayer Club if you're doing that. My God. So a couple of things. Leslie Black, this isn't basketball, but he's apparently a defensive lineman that is on the roster.
Correct.
He's sort of out of nowhere. Like nobody's talked about him. And then yesterday, BOL was like, yeah, this guy's on the team. He's originally from Nebraska or went to Nebraska and then went to West Georgia? Is that right?
West Alabama. Actually.
West Alabama. Okay.
Played for Scott Cochran last year.
Yeah, he's from Georgia. That's what it is. And now he's at Alabama. Look, again, I don't think he's as big a deal as Henderson, but I think it's not a deal. He's 280 pounds. He's 6'5". I mean, can you stand there adequately? I mean, I'm not asking for you to be an All-American. I mean, I'd love for you to be, but I don't think
we used to have 130 guys on the roster, and we would never, ever really talk about players basically 95 through 130. But now you only have 105, and in the future, and when I say in the future, I'm talking about now all 105 are recruited to be here. Not all of them will have scholarships, and certainly not all of them get rev share and NIL money. But you're recruiting all 105 to be there, and that's why we see more reports about it. Now, it's strange we hadn't seen a report on this kid. It's probably a walk-on, but hey, if you're recruited to be here, productive player at West Alabama a year ago. And here's the deal. You've got to practice. We don't have 25, 30 extra walk-ons out helping us get through practices anymore. And it's important that everyone at practice be a competitor. Everyone at practice helping get us better. This kid sounds to me like at minimum, pretty good scout team guy here.
Should be noted the baseball team went 2-1. They dropped the first game to Washington State. It was ugly. And the first thing I thought of is not a baseball guy. I was like, oof, that's a bad look. But we did come back and beat them pretty handily the next 2 games. And then the softball team continues to roll on. The gymnastics team won Friday night, right?
Yeah, they did. They'll continue at high score of the season. They'll continue to be the 3rd-ranked team, only behind Oklahoma and LSU, who won the last 2 national titles. Alabama is 3rd, just ahead of UCLA, which has a literal Olympic gymnast on their roster. Alabama's doing extremely well in gymnastics. They look like a national title contender.
But let's get into basketball. And I want to get into the game last night, but I got just 30 seconds on Bruce Pearl's comments about how he thought Nate Oats was selfish for pursuing this Charles Bediako thing because he doesn't care about the other teams in the NCAA or the SEC. Bruce, give me a damn break, son. I mean, Bruce is not the worst guy in the world. I know Alabama fans think that. He comes to Elliott City a lot. He's got a late place. I think he's a member at Willow Point, maybe at Wicker Point too. I'm not sure. And I've known a lot of even Alabama people who've met him said, he's all right. But statements like that are so hypocritical and disingenuous. But give me a break.
He's the wrong guy to say that.
He is the wrong guy. I mean, it's like Bernie Madoff saying, what are you going to use him for your financial advisor? I mean, come on, man. Bruce, look, yeah, we know you did coach stuff, dirty coach stuff, but every coach does dirty coach stuff. But if you're doing dirty coach stuff, don't call other coaches doing dirty coach stuff. I mean, nobody's been more selfish than you of late, so just let it go. It
should be noted. It should be noted that Jay Billis, who's basically the Kirk Herbstreit of college basketball, Jay considered, I think, by most to be the brightest commentator. He's actually supportive of Bediako and Alabama for trying. And Billis said Alabama nor Bediako deserves any grief over their attempts, and that this is all on the NCAA for inconsistently applying their own rules. They do it inconsistently, and it's very tough to determine what's right, what's wrong. And Billis thinks Alabama and Bediako is taking too much criticism about this. And again, I don't know that anybody speaks for college basketball any better or brighter than Billis. I will take his opinion over Bruce Pearl's in almost every situation, certainly this one.
100%. And again, I just thought it was a bad move by Bruce because it seems like eventually he wants to get into politics in some regard. And if you're going to do that, you might want to at least appeal to some Alabama fans who maybe not correctly, but only vote based on their football allegiances. So I don't know.
Tuberville is super bright, but I am saying at least Tuberville, before he ran for office, didn't say, hey, you know what? That Saban guy, he's an idiot. He's an idiot. He's a cheater and an idiot. So at least Tuberville had the sense not to do that before running for office in Alabama. Bruce Pearl sort of did.
Okay, so last night the Alabama plays South Kakalaki, and let's be real, I felt like Alabama sort of went through the motions for the most part. There were spurts where Bama just asserted dominance because the South Carolina team is just not very good. They just aren't. They have sort of mailed it in, and South Carolina had some spurts where they didn't look like the worst team in the league, which I think they are. But for the most part, this was, South Carolina took a lead for a second, like a 5-point lead, if I remember right, something like that. And then Alabama got ahead, and they just never really looked back. They win by 14. They don't cover, but, when you're a 17.5-point favorite in the SEC, I mean, you still win by 14. It's not like you were it was real close. South Carolina did get it into 8, or I think to 8 or maybe even 6 with about 5 minutes to go or 8 minutes to go, something like that. It just didn't matter. It was this was a game Alabama had to survive. Taylor Bowen didn't play. Obviously, some of the usual suspects didn't play. Amari Allen is still – look, I don't know who won the hard hat award because I went to bed right after the game, and I got this soccer thing with my daughter today, so I had
London Jemison won the hard hat.
Okay, I'm down with that. The only thing that I was going to say he would be a choice.
But I thought it would be Amari.
I think it should have been Amari.
Well, they track it by points, so they don't just pick a guy. I just assumed Amari Allen would have the most points. And I was a little surprised that London Jemison.
Well, I mean, Amari Allen had 8 points. He had 10 rebounds, 3 assists, only 1 turnover, 2 steals, and he did foul out, though. Wow, I didn't even remember that. But
I'm not sure what all constitutes their blue-collar points, but the rebounds do. The rebounds and those steals, I bet, do. and I'm not sure how they look at those fouls, but I think things like points, those are more like white collar points, I guess, when you're scoring points and dishing out assists. But I'm not sure what the formula is. We need to look into that. I'll ask.
I'm going to get you some WD-42 because I don't know who opened a door in the background there at your place, but it sounded like the beginning of the Thriller song, right when they opened up the haunted house.
I almost broke into that Thriller dance because I've memorized it. Yeah, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So remaining schedule. Here's what's great. Okay. We got by the Ole Miss thing, which we should have. By the way, Mississippi State went in there and plastered them last night. So we got by Ole Miss. You get by South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina was really a threat to beat Alabama, but it's always good just to you're done with it. Okay. So now we have Arkansas at home Wednesday. Please, people, show up and be loud and be proud. Then Saturday, you're at LSU. LSU had somewhat of not a heartbreaker, but they had a shot to beat Tennessee. Tennessee was doing to LSU kind of what we did South Kakalaki. And they ended up winning. I think LSU is on the verge of mailing it all in too. So, and then you get Mississippi State at home. You're at Georgia, at Tennessee, at Georgia, and then Florida at home. I mean Auburn at home. We play. I looked at the schedule today, and I looked at the standings. The great thing about Alabama is like all the teams except Arkansas and Tennessee are on the bottom half of the standings. I mean, even Georgia, who we know is pretty good, but they've fallen off a little bit. Like they've come back down to earth. So Georgia is the best of that bunch, but Auburn's in there, and we know Auburn can be dangerous, but shoot, they got problems of their own internally. And then Mississippi State, not very good. I don't care what they did to Ole Miss, and LSU, not very good. So this is something where we have a legit shot. If we can get out of this stretch with only, I'm being probably optimistic saying only losing one game, that game being at Tennessee, man, we're setting ourselves up nicely. I mean, I don't know if that gets us a 3 seed in the tournament, but it gets us close enough. We're definitely a 4.
The opportunity to finish second in the SEC. I mean,
yeah.
We're not going to catch Florida. Florida's really, really good. I think Florida has a legit chance to win it all. I don't know that anybody's talking about them in that sense, but I think Florida could win the national championship again. Heck, we've seen them win back-to-back national titles. I guess it was about 20 years ago, but they've done it before. I think if Alabama finishes second with this roster and all these injury issues, if they finish second in the SEC based on, and then get healthy, I think a huge thing last night for me was that Philon Wrightsell and Holloway combined for 58.
And Wrightsell didn't limp off. That was another positive.
I don't know that's a season high for the 3, but it's going to be close. And the key to this team really achieving is the health of Philon, Wrightsell, and Holloway. If all 3 are healthy and playing well, Alabama's going to be a tough out for anyone, including Florida.
I believe that all 3 of them played for the St. John's game, and I think they combined for 60. So I think this was the second best performance. But again, my point stands that if there's a game and Wrightsell doesn't come off holding his hip or his wrist or his ankle or his knee or whatever, I feel like that's a win.
There's your win.
Yeah. I'd like to see him stay healthy for a few games. And it's not me taking a shot at him. Some people you cannot explain it. They're injury prone.
It would be great in these last 6 if we could not rest them, but just get healthy. Just get healthy for the first time all year. Won't that be the headline if going into March Madness selection? I hope that on Selection Sunday, regardless where Alabama's seated or the matchup, my hope is we get this quote from Nate. This is the healthiest we've been probably all year. That's the quote I need to hear. And then I'm going to feel like, ooh, we're going to be a tough out in this tournament.
Plus, that's kind of a low bar to be the healthiest we've been all year. That's it's not a high bar.
Yeah, we're not going to mean as much as I think it means.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, but I'll say this too. I wanted to add this because there was talk of this in the Discord page, which you can be a part of with Everyday Club. Jaleel Bethea, he played pretty well when he got in there in the first half. In the second half, he reverted to some of the stuff that probably keeps him out of the lineup. But I'll say this for him. He's engaged on the sidelines.
I'm seeing flashes.
That's positive.
He's flashing now. I mean, to me, I see flashes of like, okay, this is why we went and got this dude from Miami. This is why we went and got him. He's just got to play more consistently, and I'm guessing on the defensive end is an issue for him.
Okay. All right. That's going to do it for today's pod. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.